All right, here we go. Quiz first, and then we'll start in on practice test 2. The first quiz question. Who can tell me how I start? Most of you got it right, so I know you know how to start. You factor it. Now, a couple of you factored wrong. That's an issue. Right? We got to make sure we're factored correctly. Then we draw a number line. And on the number line are going to go 2 filled in dots. 1 at -1 and 1 at 9. Nothing is squared or weird about the problem. So I'll just stick 0 in. 0 gives me a negative times a positive. What am I looking for? Positive. That doesn't work, does it? So my answer is this or this. Now when I write that answer, it must be written in 2 pieces. You have never seen a math teacher write this as one piece. It's not possible. It's in 2 chunks. Therefore, your answer must be written in 2 chunks. Does anyone have a question about that? All right. The second one was a little harder than that. And some of you made arithmetic mistakes that you're going to be upset about, I think. How do we start? Move the 4. Because when we are doing inequalities, there are 2 things we've got to have. We've got to have a 0, and we've got to have a number line. Now what?
4 is 1.
We need 1 fraction. So we'll multiply this one by x minus 3 over x minus 3. Now our denominator is, okay, it's the same. And we're going to distribute in the numerator. So 5x plus 2. This is where we made a mistake. Minus 4x plus 12. Does everybody see why that's plus 12? You're distributing. So that gave you x plus 14 over x minus 3. So where did the dots go on the number line?
-14.
At -14 and 3. There's nothing squared or fancy, so we can just try a number, like 0. If I put 0 in, I get a positive on the top and a negative on the bottom. Does that work for me? Because I want negative. So this section works. Now, kids, how many sections are colored in? 1. Not 2, 1. So when there's only 1 section, you can write it together as one piece. All the x's between -14 and 3. Any questions about that? But here's the bad news. This test does not have very many questions on it. You can see the practice test, there really aren't that many questions. So what does that mean? They're all worth a lot. So you want to make sure that you got it, because that's on the test. Okay. All right, practice test 2. You've had a couple minutes to look it over. Who has found a starting place for us on practice test C. Does anybody care? Should we start at the beginning, or was there something particular you wanted to look at? Start at the beginning? Everybody good with that? I just want to make sure I get your questions. So does anybody have a particular problem we need to do? Hey, 2C. All right, let's do 2C, and then I'll just go back. I'll go back to number 1 if you want to do that. Okay, I need to make sure I'm on the right test. Yeah. Okay, so 2C. All right, this is an inequality, so I need a 0. Got it. Need a number line. Where will the dots go on the number line? -3 and 3. They will be filled in dots. Everybody good so far? Now, see this? That messes everything up. So what am I going to have to do since there's a squared in the problem? I got to pick a point here, pick a point here, pick a point here. So, I don't know, I guess I'll do -4. -4 would make that negative. Be careful. -4 would make this negative, but it's being squared, so it's going to be positive. When I multiply a negative times a positive, do I get what I wanted? What's this? That's positive. Does a negative times a positive give you a positive? No, doesn't work. All right, let's try 0. 0 gives me a positive times a positive. Remember, you're squaring that. Does that work? Yep. Let's try 4. 4 gives me a positive times a positive. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, what all was colored in? Everything greater than or equal to -3. Okay, Katie? Anything else? Somebody has a specific question. Anything else? Zach? A is another inequality. I'm doing A. A is another inequality. So first thing I gotta have a 0.
-4.
So I'm going to -4x. I also gotta have a number line. But I can't really use the number line until I do what to this? Factor it. How does this factor?
X plus 2, X minus 2.
Be careful. That would be it if that X weren't there, but that X kind of messes that up. Since there's an X there, we're going to take an X out. That's how that factors. If that weren't there, it would be X minus 2, X plus 2, but that X messes it up, so we'll take it out. And that leaves me with X minus 4. Where do the dots go? I got a dot at 0 and a dot at 4. There's no squares or anything, so I only need to check 1 point, but I can't check 0. So what number do you want to check? 1. All right, 1's right here. So if I put 1 in, I get a positive times the negative. I'm putting in 1, so it's positive times negative. Does that work for me? Yep. So my answer is everything between 0 and 4. Zach, did all that make sense to you?
No, where'd you get the positive from?
No. If you put a 1 here,
Oh, and that's
just 1. And this would be -3.
with points, and you just use the 0 as one? Because like since we only have like
A
a
plain
mix before.
X, a plain X.
Oh, it's gonna go 0.
All right, is there anything else, any other specific problem? Otherwise, we'll start at the beginning. Everybody good on everything then? No specific question? All right, then let's look at this massive problem at this beginning. This one is obviously worth a lot of points because it has a lot of parts. Okay, here we go, gang. How shall we begin? We can put a horizontal asymptote in right from the beginning. Where's our horizontal asymptote? Two. Remember the horizontal asymptote? You look right here. Compare the x's. All right, now what? I think we better factor, folks.
Yeah.
That's about all we can get away with right now. We need to get this thing factored. So what can you do to the top? Ay, 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 ay. Take a 2 out. Guys, you need to eat your Wheaties or something. Wheaties.
Wheaties?
Yeah.
Oh, they
Oh, X plus 3, X minus
So x minus 3, x plus 3. And what's on the bottoms?
X minus 3, X minus 4.
Uh-oh, what happens?
We got a hole.
We're gonna have a hole.
We got a hole.
By the way, you will never find that if you don't factor. You have to factor. Where is the hole?
3.
Where x is 3. Look at what canceled out. The hole is at 3. How do I find the y part? Put it back into my new problem. So that's 2 times 6 over negative 1. 3 times, or 3 plus 3? 3 minus 4? So that's negative 12. So I have a hole, oh boy, clear down here, at 3, negative 12. Now what else do I have in my problem? Look here, you can tell. What does this tell me?
Your X intercept.
No.
Or Y.
Vertical asymptote.
That tells me my vertical asymptote is at
4.
4. Verticals, kids, come from the denominator being 0. Vertical asymptote at 4. Now we need our intercepts. One of them will have an x that's 0, and one of them will have a y that's 0. If we let x be 0, tell me what happens. If you let x be 0, what do you have on the top? 6. If x is 0, you have negative 4 on the bottom. So that's negative 3 halves. Where did I plot that point? The point 0 comma negative 3 halves is plotted on the y-axis. So you're going to put it in the blank called y-intercept. Now, y is 0. I let y be 0 in my equation. So So I'm gonna multiply this over to here and it still stays 0. I'm gonna divide both sides by 2 and it still stays 0. So what's my x-intercept? -3.
So you wouldn't like distribute the 2?
You can, but it's still 6 divided by 2, it's still gonna be 3, it doesn't matter. Now at this point, I can see pretty clearly what's happening here. But what about the other half of the picture? It's going to be right up here, right? Even though there's no points up there, you know that's where it is. Test questions can be just like this, nothing tricky or hard. Zach,
How do you find the lines or something?
let x be 0,
Oh, no, they're not even eggs.
let y be 0.
40, plug it in.
You plug it in right here for y.
At the very beginning.
Of your new problem, but it goes in for y, so it looks like this. Then I multiply this over here, still 0, divided by 2, still 0, subtracted 3, so x is -3. Anything else? Okay, well, we've done A, so now we'll do B. How do we start B, Claire Mahoney? How do we start problem B? Move the 3 to the other side. Gotta have a 0. Jordan Walker, next step. Yep, our common denominator will just be x minus 2. So we're going to multiply this one by x minus 2 over x minus 2. Now I can write it as one fraction with a denominator of x minus 2. Lexi Trammell, what will my numerator be? My denominator is x minus 2. What do I have on top?
Plus 4 minus 3x plus 6.
Perfect. Moses, simplify the top for me.
It should be a negative 2x plus 2.
Yep. Now I'm ready to go to my number line, aren't I? And I think everybody can see where this dot is. This one's where? The denominator. It's a 2. The numerator is a little tricky. So over to the side, just set it equal to 0 and solve it. That will tell you where to put your dot. So negative 2x equals negative 10. Where am I going to put my dot? At 5. So I have a dot at 2 and a dot at 5. This is an or equal to problem. Those should be colored in. But what do I know? Can't color the denominator, but I can color the numerator. Nothing squared or tricky about the problem. So let's just pick a number. If we use 0, that's good, but it's out here, remember? 0's out here. So if I put 0 in, what do I have on the top? Positive 10, right, a positive number, and on the bottom I have a negative. Positive over negative is not positive, right? So that didn't work. So my answer is everything between 2 and 5.
If that doesn't work, like, should you still check all the other ones?
No, you never have to unless the problem is like the one you asked about. It has a square in it. As long as the factors are just plain, not squared or cubed or radicals or absolute values, you know, as long as there's nothing extra.
So it'll either be on the side or the other?
Yep, every time. Unless you put a square in it.
So then, if you have like the negative 2x plus 10, and you're trying to look for the number that you're going to plot in the number line, you just set it equal to 0, and then you'll get it. And then when you plug in the numbers again, just go back to the normal problem. Okay. Alright.
I'm still kind of confused with like now we're right
If it's one piece, when you shade it, how many sections did you shade? 1. So you have 1 answer. If you shaded 2 pieces, it would be this or this.
That's right.
Yeah.
When you plug the numbers back
Hey,
in,
hey, hey! I can't even hear Ryan's question.
when you plug the numbers back in, you just use negative 2x plus 10.
Yep. And x minus 2.
You just forget about the 5.
So when I plugged in 0, the top turned out to be positive 10, and the bottom turned out to be negative 2.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm assuming the bell is getting ready to ring. All right, a little more homework tonight. You'll have to do the whole last page. Practice test 2.
So 7:30 now.